Welcome to Health and Safety Conversations. Here's your host, Tom Bourne.
And joining us today is the wonderful Susan Fleming. Susan, how are you?
Susan Fleming is the Managing Director of ACT Australia, a company that's changing how we learn about safety and leadership through powerful storytelling and live performance. From programs like Hindsight to The Slip, Susan's work turns real experiences into lessons that help teams lead, reflect, and make safer decisions.
Nice to be called wonderful. Thanks, Tom. I'm great. I've just got back from Port Hedland. That's always an exciting experience.
And how is Port Hedland?
Port Hedland was so exciting. It was our second regional show for Hindsight, and the audience was fantastic. We were still putting out where we were supposed to start because more people turned up than we booked, but it was fantastic. And they gave the experience a really, really warm welcome and fantastic feedback at the end. So we're very happy with Port Hedland. And the weather was beautiful. Very sunny.
Nice. Yeah. Now, Susan, you're the Managing Director at Acting, Consulting and Training for Australia and New Zealand. For the listeners who aren't quite sure what the organisation does, can you give us a brief overview how it connects theatre, leadership and safety?
I certainly can. Look, theatre has always been used in storytelling for a really long time. But 12 years ago, I saw it in use in London, teaching process safety in the aviation and the oil and gas industries. And I thought, this is really high quality. And the industries in Australia are doing well with safety, but we can do a lot better in innovation and the excellence that we can offer in training. I developed a license arrangement with a company in London at first, and we still have association and we still do some of their products, but now we're fully West Australian, develop our own stories and theatre produced workshops. So it's a case study where you really dive into a story, and through that story, you understand new concepts about things. And for this month, it's about psychosocial safety.
Psychosocial safety, which is the hot topic and has been for the last 2 years. I believe the current show, Hindsight, and the one before that, which was The Slip, supported by the Mars program through Western Australia WorkSafe. Is that correct?
That's correct. And this has been an incredible experience. I'm sure you can imagine, and many of the listeners can imagine, when you do a partnership between creative industries and government, you wonder how the two are going to turn out, the longevity of the time, the difference of backgrounds. This was both times a really positive experience and even better for the industry. So the challenge that the Mars Project have is that mental health, respect and safety as issues need help to be engaging. They need help to really get people to understand what the concepts are, what the messages are, and to be engaged in a really positive way that, dare I say it, with theatre also makes it entertaining.
So in terms of it being engaging as well as educational, is that the main difference between it and some sort of compliance-based training that most people in the industry are used to?
Very big difference. I think, look, a lot of compliance training can also be done with theatre, but at the moment we tend to go for the sheep dip approach, as many people as we can, through a shorter possible time out of the workplace and a very rudimentary, process. What we specialize in is engagement, and engagement meaning that the people on the stage look and sound and are doing things that you do. So you're instantly engaged and related within the first couple of minutes. We usually use a bit of humor in the beginning to try and, get people to be comfortable, because theatre is not everyone's immediate choice of a comfortable space. Once they realize that this is a story that's going to be told for them, about them, there's a much deeper learning experience available. Because you are engaged emotionally and physically, because you're there, you're part of it, you're feeling it, you're not going to forget it. And therefore, it's effective. It's more effective than most of the training that we are doing. Unfortunately, the retention for training that involves mostly video and online is not good. And we need to get these particular topics right, especially psychosocial safety.
Absolutely. Now, as managing director, how do you balance keeping the creative side of the business going as well as all the logistical and analytical parts that must be entailed in taking a show across the whole state?
Don't look tired. Look, there's two things that blind me, unfortunately. One of them is creativity. Very much being involved in the creative side is what drives me. It gets me out of bed every day. I love what I do. I'm very fortunate in the people that I work with. Western Australia has incredible talent. So do we across Australia. On the first day of Safe Work Month in October, ACT opened 3 different productions in 3 different states. We opened one production for aviation and the Institute of Chemical Engineers in Adelaide. We opened a project for James Hardy in Brisbane and Sydney, and we had the premiere for Hindsight here in Perth. So we did feel like we were stretched, but we have been working now with systems and processes that underpin what we do and a really gifted bunch of people in our production team. The commitment to really make a difference and the commitment to do it as excellently as we can is what drives me. And I'm really proud to say drives all our team.
Good. Now, I went along to the slip. I was there for the premiere of the slip when it came out. Haven't been to Hindsight yet, just purely because of availability and a few things going on in the background. Can you explain how it helps leaders and teams better understand decision-making and accountability?
What was really good in this slip was we were seeing a story that had actually happened. So we were able to take a true story, the case study of the Mainfay pit slip, and bring that to life with incredible writer Andy Hamilton, director Emily McLean, and 4 amazing actors. Now, that story was about what good looks like, and it was so impressive to see how the people themselves, the actual people from the story, came to see it in Perth from Utah, and they absolutely loved it. And it was really rewarding for us, but it was also really rewarding for the creative team to feel like we'd honoured their work. The ability for the audiences to relate to these leaders and to see what had actually happened is what's also happening in Hindsight. And this time, it's more about considering the shadow of the leader and the impact that you can have. And it's very, very important that we take time sometimes to reflect that impact. So for leadership, it's always a chance to learn something new, but it's also a chance to reflect on the way that theatre can hold up a mirror to us and allow us to go, ooh, there by the grace of God go I, or that could be me, or that could be people I know. So that makes it very impactful. So leaders come away feeling it, knowing they've learned, and also more willing to share. What we offer is what's on the stage, but what we also offer is the interactivity during the facilitations. It's broken up into 3 parts over 2.5 hours. And there's 2 parts where we facilitate Q&A with the audience. People get to discuss between themselves what they're seeing. They get to share experiences. They get to reflect. And that makes it a very energetic time. And so when you're sitting down, you're taking it all in, then you get a chance to have that energy and reflection with each other and then back again for more of the story. So it's a very good learning experience. And the feedback I've had from leaders is 2 things recently. One is how great they found it, but even better, how valuable it was doing it with their team. So we really encourage people to bring their teams to Hindsight.
Yeah. I like the idea of the shadow that a leader can cast. I've never thought of it like that, but that's a really profound way to think about it. How do you ensure that the stories that you guys present when you do these shows ensure that they're both engaging and respectful to the people that they're based on and the situations they're based on?
You've asked one of my favorite questions because there is so much work in our research. We had amazing interaction with the actual people involved and an author called Brad, who'd actually written a book. We had a lot of consultation with Brad, who was very generous. This time with Hindsight, because of the subject matter, we really needed to make sure that the integrity of the way we approached some mental health themes, some themes of suicide, some themes of real bullying and harassment. We needed to make sure we did all of this with absolute integrity. So we did a co-design, and that's a development process where you're researching with subject matter expertise. We had Lifeline, we had Mates in Mining, we had the Mental Health Commission, we had Mars, we had Sandra Lamb, one of my favorite people, an organisational psychologist, work with us. We had Jana Lanwin, who's just come back from London School of Economics, gave an amazing global perspective to the work. And having all that work put into the melting pot before we started writing the script makes us 100% sure that what we're doing is correct and it's got the integrity that this kind of sensitive material needs to have. So I'm very happy with the result.
Yeah. Can you share a particular case or example where Hindsight you think hit the mark in terms of impact on leaders?
I can actually. We've just been going through some of the feedback and because we record pre and post data because it helps us for metrics and also for the Mars program to know how their investment is tracking in terms of connection with people and the impact it's having. One of the things that I've heard now from the 3 programs that we've already done is this gave me cause to reflect on my behavior as a leader and where I might not have led as well as I thought I did. And I think for a leader to, one, reflect that deeply to see where that was, and secondly, to be moved enough to write it down was impressive as an impact.
Good. All right. You've mentioned that storytelling and theatre have been particularly powerful throughout the ages in getting messages across. Tell me, what do you think is the crux of it that makes it so effective with influencing people's behaviour and, in this case, understanding risk?
It's a great question. And the research that is showing us that it's the recognition or the identification with the people on stage is a big part of it. That feeling of that could be me or that could be someone I know. So that engagement is emotional and it matches a cognitive understanding because storytelling is stories hopefully told well through actions and through dialogue and stories. So people are understanding. So if you've got cognitive and an emotional click, then you don't forget it. And the second part of that is that the emotional helps you be more committed to it, more committed to the change that you're being asked of. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, you've mentioned in the past that people don't remember PowerPoint slides, they remember stories, and I agree with you 100% with that. Is there any sort of measurement of retention of people, the learning that they've picked up in the shows afterwards?
The longevity of the retention is still a bit of a holy grail in research, but we are doing it. And we're also doing it through Curtin University and Edith Cowan University. Wearing my other hat for a moment, I'm the chair of the Constable Care Foundation. that also does theatre and education in schools about safety, but it's for prevention of harm to young people, where my company is more about prevention of harm to people in the workplace. So the research is showing us that the retention is definitely there and extensive, and ability to recall themes and stories and characters and actions that happened during the theatre production. How long that is there for, they're still working on that. So I guess it's more at the moment, the satisfaction is in the degree of retention and the degree of shifting somebody's knowledge from the beginning of a production to after the production.
Good. All right. In your view, or in your opinion, what do you think is the single biggest challenge about developing safety leadership that goes beyond the usual training rooms or one-day programs that people attend and actually changing behaviours and attitudes in the workplace?
So that's interesting. I was a director of customised training for the Australian Institute of Management for 7 years and very much explored this. I do believe that it's a combination. And I really think that using the theatre-based work to create that catalyst for change, to use it as a rejig for change when a project's being developed for a while, is very useful. I think that content delivery in group form, followed by coaching and small bites after that, is the most effective way. Having people engaged where it's not a push situation, where it's actually an interactive situation, just gives people more ownership of what they're learning and probably more opportunity for better quality learning.
What type of workplaces traditionally engage most with your programs, and why do you think that is?
I think it's definitely true that when we started the organisation, it was because of a need in the major hazard industries. And I believe that need still exists today, because these are process safety situations in oil and gas, in shipping, in defence. We do work with defence, where your constant need to be vigilant about safety, process safety, workplace health and safety is there. Since 2022 and the new legislation for psychosocial safety, this is broader. It's broadened our audience. However, those are the main industries. We work with rail. We really enjoy good relationships in rail with ARC Infrastructure and John Holland in particular. And I would really like to see that the psychosocial stories can have an impact across broader industries. But at the moment, it's mostly the major hazard industries or industries with major hazard potential.
Yeah, I can understand that. Whereabouts are you going to be taking the show, and when would that be?
We are so excited for the next couple of weeks. We're off to the Goldfields. We are off to Kalgoorlie and Leonora on the 21st and 22nd of October. And we are so looking forward to good audiences there. So if you haven't booked already, listeners, please get your bookings in. And we are very excited. 2 shows in Kalgoorlie, a morning show and an afternoon show. And at Leonora, it's 1 o'clock on the 22nd. And then we're coming back to Perth.
Very good.
Because we always get this lovely roll at the end of the month where people have heard about it and they're like, oh, we really want to see it. Well, you're in luck. I think it's October at the State Library. We're doing 2 sessions. We'll do a morning session and an afternoon session to capture everybody's interest. So yeah, we make sure we cover the bases. So if you're interested, register your interest now.
Beautiful. Finally, Susan, if you could leave the listeners with one piece of advice about learning from incidents or from the show Hindsight, what would it be?
Bring your team. The work that we need to do in safety and psychosocial safety depends on all of us taking part in making a difference.
Susan Fleming, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thanks so much, Tom. It's been really great.
Thanks for listening to Health and Safety Conversations with Tom Bourne. Until next time, Stay safe and enjoy the rest of your week.